appointment with you and they'll get to you.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Bolingbrook Village Board to order. We'd like to start with the pledge to our flag. I'd like to ask Andrew Courtney from Troop 75 to please come up and help lead me in the pledge to the flag. No, flag.
Will you please repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance?
No, you okay. I'm sorry.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Clear.
Here.
Trustee Zarate.
Here.
Trustee Lawler.
Here.
Trustee Basta.
Here.
Trustee Watts.
Here.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Here.
Trustee Driscoll.
Here. Okay, everyone's here. Approve the minutes, regular meeting of December 17th. Your motion?
So moved.
Second.
That's trustee Carpenzano, second trustee Basta. Questions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Next, approval of the agenda. Mr. Edelson.
No corrections or additions.
No changes.
No changes either.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Trustee
Second.
Watts, second trustee Jazzowitz. Questions? Any further comment? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. There are no appointments to boards and commissions this evening. Reports of officers. First of all, before I forget it, there's nothing in the Plan Commission coming up that needs village board attention. So there's a possibility, I'm not saying it is, but there's a possibility the January 28th meeting might be canceled. We were not going to do it this evening. We'll post it if it is in fact canceled, but if there's no business, there's really no point in bringing everybody together. So to watch the calendar for that. Next, we have a proclamation this evening. Dr. Martin Luther King Day Jr. I'd like to ask Schaefer Suggs to please join me at the podium to accept that proclamation. I'm going to do this before. I think I'll do it before. Schaefer Suggs lives here in Bolingbrook and has for some time. I've got to know him over the years for different events and so forth. He's a very interesting individual in his own right, and he has two children that are just absolutely over the top in terms of success in life. He unfortunately lost his wife some years ago, who was director of the Bolingbrook Park District. Done a remarkable job of continuing to raise his two children. And what I want to mention tonight, and he can tell me about his daughter, who's now working, I believe, in New York City, living in Brooklyn, based on her success in her own right. He'll tell you more detail about that. And I want, David, come on over. I want to kind of do a little question, Q&A here.
Okay.
You're from Indiana, correct?
Elkhart, Indiana, correct.
And you went to that place called Ball State.
Ball State University.
Anyway, so on your day, he's going to Ball State over the weekend, coming up next couple of days, to visit his high school coach. And I said, that coach must be about 120 now.
Yeah, he's 88 years old.
He was a young guy when you coaching you.
He was.
Anyway, you graduated Ball State, and what did you do?
So I graduated actually with a history and political science major. I played football and basketball there, and I was fortunate to be drafted in the 1976 draft. The 33rd pick overall, second round. And I got a chance to play with one of my favorite football players, Joe Namath.
Played with New York Jets. And 7 years?
7 years, yes.
7 years. And I think we met through the retired football players golf outing, which is held every year. I'm not sure where we met. Do you remember where we met?
Correct, yeah. I'm on the executive board of the former NFL Players Association, and we have one of our big fundraisers. We have an annual golf outing at the Bolingbrook Golf Club every year.
And they bring in sports stars from all over the country. Bo Jackson also has a tournament here, or an outing here to raise money for his Bo Jackson charity. Give Kids a Chance, I think is the name of it. Anyway, so that's how I met Schaefer. And his daughter, who is, what's she, 21 now?
She'll be 23 years old. I can't
23.
believe it. Right.
Tell us quickly about her success.
So Faith, basketball player at Plainfield East High School, and We thought she was going to come to Bolingbrook, but she got sidetracked with the home at Flossmoor. Was an All-American, was heavily recruited. She actually chose Duke University. She played 4 years at Duke. Her senior year, she's captain and led the ACC in charges taken and was the most valuable defensive player. One of her favorite coaches, assistant coaches, Rainey Haynes, got her first coaching job after the season at Long Island University and chose Faith to come with her as director of basketball operations at Long Island University. So she graduated in May and she's working in June. So that was a pretty interesting move from Durham to Brooklyn.
Now, you, at her games, you went to a big number of her, watched her play a lot, right?
I went to as many as I could, yeah.
I know it was a lot.
Yeah.
His, again, his wife, who was director of Park District Sue Suggs, was a very popular lady, and again, Schaefer's done a great job raising Faith. And now let's talk about your son for a moment, who I want to say what he's got. He was offered like 20 full rides at a variety of institutions across the country, football scholarships. He's a quarterback in Bolingbrook. He was a quarterback this year in the Bolingbrook Raiders football team, who went to the second round of playoffs, third round.
We went to the third round, right?
Third round of playoffs this year. Anyway, Devin was offered several scholarships, and I'm not sure it wasn't just on my advice, but I said one of them he was offered was a full ride to Yale. And I said, I know these other schools are great schools, but if I had a chance to go to a university, you can almost say Yale graduate, and that opens a lot of doors. Anyway, so that's in fact what he's going to do. But let's talk about the most recent honor he got.
So he was nominated for the Franklin D. Watkins Award, which is one of the most highly prestigious awards for an African-American high school scholar athlete. He was nominated. There was over 1,400 nominees nationwide, and he was in the top 10. So he became the regional winner for the Midwest region, and he will go to Washington, D.C. in March to get his honor.
Are you going to like carry his suitcase?
I'm going to carry his suitcase. At this particular point, I'm going to do everything for him.
So have you already checked out what it costs to fly to see Yale play?
I do.
And how many home games they got?
The Ivy Leagues only play 10 games, and I probably will be at every one of them.
Well, that's what retired professional football players can do.
But you got to remember, I played in the 70s, so I'm gonna have to get a second job.
You didn't have a signing bonus of 10 or 20?
I did. I had a $50,000 signing bonus. I ran out and got me a Grand Prix.
Ronnie Bull, who played for the 65 Bears.
Right?
He told me his signing bonus with George House was like 40 or 50,000. He was like #1 draft pick.
Right.
Out of Baylor. And, so when you read about the salaries today, they weren't like that back then.
No. So they put our checks on the table, and one guy would go take them to the bank and cash them for us. They don't do that today.
Direct
Deposit, correct.
And he played with Joe Namath, and what was Joe like?
Joe was a wonderful man, and one of the biggest highlights of my life was, playing with him. But my son Devin got a chance to go back to our last Legends Weekend, which was in August, and he got a chance to spend about 5 minutes, and he graciously spent uninterrupted about 5 or 10 minutes talking to Devin. The first thing he said, Devin, I guess I'm not really 6'2", am I? Because Devin's about 6'5". But what a wonderful, always sign autographs. He's just a hero. Just a hero of mine.
That was a great game when they won and beat Baltimore, right?
Sure was. The Baltimore Colts.
Anyway, so I don't know of anybody in Bolingbrook, certainly many equal to, but epitomizes what you've done with your kids and what you did personally, as well as what you did for Devin and Faith.
Thank you.
So I thought it'd be a great one to accept the Martin Luther King proclamation tonight. So Dr. Martin Luther King Day Jr., Martin Luther King Jr. Day, January 20th, 2020. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King was born on January 15th, 1929. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a world-renowned leader of the struggle to protect the legal and moral rights of the people. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was recognized for his efforts to ensure the civil rights of all people by being the youngest man ever to receive the Nobel Peace Prize Award in 1964. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King lost his life in the pursuit of his dream that all people live with the freedom guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. Now, therefore, I righteously declare Mayor of the Board of Trustees of Village of Bolingbrook, Will and DuPage County, Illinois, In recognition of the great achievements and exemplary life of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., do hereby proclaim January 20th as Dr. Martin Luther King Day in the village of Bolingbrook, and accepting again Schaefer Suggs. Schaefer?
Thank you so much. Those gracious words about my kids, I get a little bit emotional about it because of the journey that they've come through, and I'm just so proud of them, and it just tells you that if you just keep the faith and just move ahead, that they'll do the right thing, and I guess their journey is just starting, and I'm just a proud dad. I know Mom is kind of watching from above, and she's very proud. But I just want to thank Mayor Claire for the honor of being a part of the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, and I share this story because my first opportunity, and I got a chance to have visibility to Dr. Martin Luther King in 1963. And I remember my mom waking me up and said, "We're going to go to Notre Dame." I'm thinking, I'm going to be an Irish. I'm going to be a football player. And I was 10 years old at that time. Well, she said, "No, but I think Dr. Martin Luther King is going to be speaking at the Steppen Center. And maybe if we go there early enough, we'll be able to see him." And we get there, and I remember there's a lot of people. There's a lot of parking. It was crazy. And we had that station on the side. Remember that station wagon? I was sitting on top, and all of a sudden, I got visibility. He gets out of this car. There's a lot of people around him, and I got a chance to see the Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King. And I tell you, that was one of the most memorable moments in my life. It was unbelievable. Think about the landscape at that time in our history in 1960, 1963. We had a governor that was calling for segregation forever. There was police dogs. There was horses. In the South, there was 4 little girls that died in the bombing of the black church in Birmingham, Alabama. And being a history major, I spent some time researching and looking at that message that he shared that day with those 3,000 people. And there was 2 things that just resonated with me, 2 quotes that resonated with me that just kind of represent what he means to me. And one of them was, "We must live together as brothers or die together as fools." And the second was, "Science and technology have made today world a neighborhood, but we must make it a brotherhood." And those, at an early age of 10 years old, and I look back on that, how it just formulated my thought process, because you got to remember at that time, it was a very difficult time. If you didn't live that time, it was a very difficult time. And for a kid having visibility to some of the things I had visibility to, and then having a leader that had so much hope was just unbelievable. And I had an opportunity to really see him. As an aspiring athlete at that time, you had Muhammad Ali, you had Jackie Robinson, who was also supporting that cause. But I could tell you, one of the most significant God-like gifts that was resonated by Martin Luther King's message was one of my favorite movies. Well, that was Remember the Titans. Mm-hmm. Remember the Titans, Coach Boone. And I was sharing with someone before that represented my high school, 1972. You remember that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? That represented, and my coach, Kurth, who I'm going to go see on Thursday, was Coach Boone. Only he was a different color. He brought that community together. But in that scene, he pulled his players, he pulled his coaches, and they hiked 5 miles to this battleground. It was the Battle of Gettysburg. And in his speech, he said, "We don't come together on this hallowed ground, we too shall perish." And I can tell you, my favorite part of I Have a Dream, and I talk about this community, that one day that little black kids, little white kids, little black kids, little black boys will join hands with little white boys and little white girls. So Mayor Claire, members of the distinguished board, the audience, I'm just proud, and I just know that Dr. Martin Luther King is smiling from above because this community represents his dream. So I appreciate the opportunity. This is a tremendous honor, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Schaefer, and that's precisely what I thought you'd do, that appreciate the personal perspective.
Thank you very much.
And who are you rooting for in the football?
Kansas City. Who are you rooting for?
I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm just enjoying the quality of football.
Okay, well, because my Jets are not in it, my Bears are not in it, so this could be a good game.
Well, it should be, yeah. Anyway, thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you, everyone. Yep.
Mayor, if I may just make a quick comment. Schaefer grew up in Fort Wayne. I grew up in South Bend, Indiana. And I was the sports editor of the high school newspaper at South Bend St. Joe. I have admired this man since I was a youth, at the same age, getting to know him. He was my hero then, and getting to know him, even though he came from another town, he's my hero today. So thank you for being here.
Very nice. Thanks for mentioning that. Next, I have a public hearing regarding the rezoning of the Clarkson property, rezoning and annexation. Is there a motion to accept the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Motion trustee Zarate, second trustee Lawler. I've got a motion, second. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jesselson.
Yes. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak to the annexation and zoning of the collection property? Seeing none? What?
Is it possible to just give them an overview of what this, where this property
We'll do
is,
that
what it's
during
used
when
for
it's on the
now?
agenda. We'll cover that on the agenda later.
Okay.
I mean, unless somebody, we can do it now, but then, this is for the public.
As long as it gets done.
Okay. Yeah, we always do that. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Motion trustee Basta, second trustee Lawler. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jesselson.
Yes.
My first motion this evening is to designate specific future revenue streams and funds for debt service payments. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Motion trustee Watts, second trustee Zarate. While reviewing the village's credit rating for the last bond issue, Standard & Poor's suggested the village adopt a debt payment policy. The board policy is a non-binding and may be amended or changed by future boards. The proposed policy articulates the revenue streams available to use to pay down general obligation debt in the future. These sources of funding have been discussed by the mayor in the past, and this motion would adopt that debt service policy. Was the policy wasn't actually on the webpage, was it? Or agenda?
In the packet? No.
As it was mentioned in the description, I'll just read it real quick. Debt payment policy. It is a policy of the mayor and board of trustees that designates specific future revenue streams and funds for debt service payments. Sources of these funds shall include the use of the 1.25% sales tax and promenade sales tax area that was currently pledged to the sales tax-backed bonds. After the current bonds have reached maturity, the last pledge payment is due January 1st, 2026. 2, monies generated from contributions made to the West Side Regional Stormwater Project. 3, proceeds from the sale of lots in Americana Estates. 4, proceeds from the sale of surplus properties surrounding the adjacent stormwater and golf course projects. 5, surplus revenues from the operation of Bolingbrook Golf Club and Bolingbrook Clower National Airport. 6, excess or surplus funds in the West Side Regional Stormwater and General Corporate Funds. And 7, a real estate property tax levy. It is the village's policy to utilize all the above-mentioned sources of revenue to pay and, if prudent, to prepay general obligation debt when deemed appropriate or financially feasible. This is a policy we've been following for several years. We used some of these funds a few months ago to pay down the debt but the Standard & Poor's wanted to see it in writing, so now it's in writing. And questions? Do we have a motion?
No.
Questions? Hearing none?
Yeah, we do have a motion in a second.
You're good. Sorry, I apologize.
Questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Vasta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jasper.
Yes.
Then brought to my attention, I skipped the only resolution this evening. How come it's number 2? Oh, the public hearing one. Again, I want to stress on that policy we just approved. We've never actually have voted on this as a policy. It's just been the practice. And it was stated that policy is only as good as the board sitting here. So if this board were to change, they could reverse this next meeting. So we're doing this basically to satisfy Standard & Poor's, who were very complimentary to everything we've done here. And as you know, raised our credit rating by 3 clicks to medium grade to high grade bonds. So we're very happy with that. And if this will make them happy, we're doing it. Back to the resolution I skipped, I'm sorry about that. Resolution 2, approving the execution of an office lease between Clow International Airport and the Village of Bolingbrook, subject to attorney approval. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion, trustee
Carpenzano.
Carpenzano, second trustee Zarate. This resolution reviews an airport management agreement with Joe DiPaolo. The term is for 3 years, from January 1st this year to December 31st of 2012. The monthly management fee is $12,458, $149,496 a year. This is a current fee, so there is no increase. There's a mutual termination clause within a 50-day notice by a vote of this board, if they so choose to do that. All other terms and conditions remain the same as the last contract. Questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Vasta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jasper.
Yes.
Our first ordinance this evening, for some reason, this is not,
It's not showing everything.
You need the second resolution.
no, we did that, that was a public hearing.
You gotta go back to the bills.
For some reason, my agenda's not flowing right, I don't know what happened with that. We did some public comments regarding items before the board meeting this evening. Is there anybody here who'd like to comment on anything that's on the agenda, published agenda? On action taken tonight? Are you,
I don't know if you're gonna take action on it or not, it's on the agenda.
I announced the last meeting, we're not gonna take action between meetings, we're just gonna discuss it tonight. You can come back up at the end if you like, when I bring it up. I assume it's about part-time mayor?
In part, yes.
Right, nobody here wants to discuss it on the agenda this evening. Okay, next, staff reports, bill approval, Exhibit A, $803,204.11. Exhibit B, $1,109,265.91. Bond payments, $8,970,413. A total of $10,882,883.02. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, trustee Jesuit, second trustee Lawler. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Vasta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jasper.
Yes.
And another motion, you did that, so now we're back to the resolutions, and again, my agenda is different than the one I was signed off on last week, so
We're missing.
it's, there's a page missing. Okay, our first ordinance, are we back on track here? First ordinance has the accompanying planning commission report, approval of text amendment to the zoning ordinance, section 40202A and B, sections 40203A and B permitted, special use permits in the B2 and B3 zoning districts, Village of Bolingbrook applicant. Is there a motion to accept the planning commission report?
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Basta, second trustee Watts. This is our own, we asked for these changes, but it still has to go through the board approval. Questions on the planning commission report? Planning commission recommended staff's approval. It's to us for our approval. Motions to approve, no questions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's approved. Now we have the accompanying ordinance. Wow. The accompanying ordinance. This ordinance approved, or motion, or the ordinance approving text amendment to the Village of Bolingbrook zoning ordinance regarding permitted and special use permits in B2 and B3 zoning districts. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Lawler, second trustee Carbonzano. This motion approves the text amendment to the zoning chapters of the municipal code. It has become clear that the retail environment has changed with the consumer's use of the internet and purchases and use of websites like Amazon and Wayfair. The village has been seeing more service-oriented business wanting to locate traditional business and commercial centers. The current code requires that non-sales tax generating businesses must secure a special use permit to locate in B2 and B3 zone districts. This process costs potential users time and money to go through the Plan Commission and Board. The proposed text amendment would take a number of small service businesses like hair and nail salons, offices, medical insurance, professional, and make them permitted uses, no longer requiring a special use. This means the applicant would be subject to staff review only. The staff is also suggesting some minor housekeeping code clarifications. The Plan Commission reviewed all these submitted to them by staff and recommends approval. Questions? Again, you're seeing a repurposing of retail shopping centers. You're seeing chiropractors, dentist offices, all kinds of different uses because retail as we know it is dying and going away, and there just are not the small users to occupy those anymore. So we're going to ease up on the special use to get some lights on in some of these small strip malls, hopefully that are vacant now because retail's gone away. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jaskowitz.
Yes. The next ordinance approving an annexation agreement with Paul Clarkson, subject to village attorney approval. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion trustee Bassa, second of trustee Zarate. This ordinance approves an annexation agreement for approximately 1 acre. The agreement provides the property to be rezoned to R5. All school and park district donations will be complied with at the time of development. Building codes in effect at the time of application will be complied with. Developer will pay for E91 and emergency siren fees at the time of the final plat approval. The owner to pay for all costs associated with the annexation, and the remaining terms are standard and required by the village in all annexation agreements. Mr. Clarkson owns one small parcel, which we're going to be tying to another parcel later. The entire piece will be R5. One of the concerns expressed to the Plan Commission is going to be an apartment complex. It will not be apartments, but will be permitted to put in attached or multifamily housing, much like what you see at Liberty Green, perhaps even though it's single family. But that kind of housing, or what we see at
Patriot Place.
Patriot Place by the golf course, or what we see at Bella Vista, or what we see at the Bluebell Ridge, because at one time we'd hope that'd be a retail shopping area, but we talked to Mr. Clarkson, and there was a consensus that realistically speaking, there will not be a retail center built there. So in order to develop the property, and I can assure you that the housing built will probably be, even attached housing will probably be in the 4 to 450 range per unit, which is comparable to the housing in that area too. So it's like Liberty Green, which again is single family homes, but they're averaging $400 and I believe $20,000 a piece. So this will fit in very nicely in the neighborhood this way, and that's what this in effect does for this property and the adjoining piece. Questions? Is that explanation sufficient? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mayor Claire.
Yes. The next ordinance is annexing that 1 acre certain territory to the village for Paul Clarkson, again, plus or minus 1 acre, subject to Public Services Director approval. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Bassa, second of trustee Lawler. This ordinance annexes the property described in the public hearing or in the previous motion, previous ordinance, and brings the property within the village's corporate boundaries. Questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mayor Claire.
Yes. The next report, or ordinance, has a accompanying Plan Commission report. It's approval of the rezoning from ER Estate Residential to R5 Single Family Residence, Clarkson Property, 127th Street, Nipville Road. John Argadelis, attorney. Don't believe I read your name at a public meeting, John. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Most trustee Lawler, second trustee Carpenzano. Questions on the Plan Commission report? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Plan Commission report is approved and accepted. Now we have the accompanying ordinance approving rezoning for property commonly known as the Clarkson property. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion trustee Watts, second trustee Zarate. Mr. Clarkson annexed plus or minus 9.479 acres to the village in 2002 as part of the River Hills subdivision, which is next door. The prior two ordinances annexed 1 acre of property adjacent to the previously annexed property. All the property is currently zoned estate residential, but the annexing agreement for the 9.479 acres would have allowed for B2 commercial zoning or retail. The petitioner would like to rezone all 10.479 acres to R5 single family, which allows a density up to 7 units per acre. Again, there were a few River Hills residents testified at the Plan Commission meeting, a concern about a high-density apartment complex, but that's not what's being approved. Plan Commission again recommends approval. I believe it was a unanimous vote, and I believe the residents were satisfied with the explanation, as I'm told. Questions?
Mayor Claire, any updates on the intersection there? I know it's only a portion, a very small portion is Bolingbrook, but have you heard any updates on improvements to that intersection?
I'd have to defer to Lucas. That's, I think there's 3 jurisdictions involved in that intersection.
Yeah, there are 3 jurisdictions. It's Plainfield, Will County, and Bolingbrook. Bolingbrook is only responsible for the east leg. Plainfield is the lead agency on this project, and they do have some STP funding, so that's some federal grant funding. They are looking to move forward at a quicker pace than they have in the past. So I did talk to them about a month ago, and we will be looking to get the plans getting ready to go, probably for a bid either later this year or early next.
And what kind of improvements, Lucas, are we talking about?
It's a traffic signal improvement. So they'll be adding a traffic signal to the intersection.
Currently a flashing red light.
Right.
Yes.
We've all experienced it.
Is the right-of-way all, do we have the right-of-way for a signalized intersection?
Yes.
And a signalized intersection will cost, what do you guess?
It's a couple $1 million project because there's going to be some work done in addition to the traffic signal that will, add some lanes and some curbs to, improve it from just the very narrow 2-lane road that it is.
Questions? Comments? That, trustee Carpenzano, is that,
Perfect. Thank you.
well, when you have borders that butt up to each other, like Plainfield and plus the county, when you get multi-jurisdictions involved in road building, it gets awkward because you have to split it up on, who pays what. And of course, it's on the edge of the county, it's on the edge of the Plainfield, it's on the edge of Bolingbrook. Growth will drive it, just like the improvement of Essington in general. All those projects are planned, set asides for fees on both sides of the road whenever it does get developed or covered. And it's all dollars. Now, maybe with the capital bill, we'll get something for that too, or Plainfield will, or the county perhaps.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jaskowitz.
Yes. And next, we have the ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the Municipal Code, increasing Class D1 from 25 to 26, Bulldog Ale House on Weber Road. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion trustee Lawler, second trustee Zarate. Bulldog Ale House on Weber Road currently holds a Class D2 full-service liquor license. They've applied for a D1, which includes an outdoor patio license, This ordinance would increase the number of D1 businesses from 25 to 26 to accommodate this request. Outdoor patios are the thing today. All restaurants like to have them. Even with our short season, it's still a very popular thing, and most all of them have it, and Bulldog Ale House here, so there's no reason to object to them adding one to themselves. Questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jaskowitz.
Yes.
All right, again, it's, for some reason, I got 2 blank pages on the agenda that I was given in my office, and I tossed my original one that I signed off on, so I assumed this was correct, but it's been pointed out to me. The resolution approving the execution of, well, I'll just read it. Resolution approving the execution of the office lease between Cloud National Airport and Village of Bolingbrook. This has to do with the office space Mr. DiPaolo pays us for as the administrator or manager of the airport. Is there a motion for that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Lawler, seconded trustee Basta. This, Mr. DiPaolo rents office space at the airport, rents $1,200 a month, $14,400 a year. The amount is the same amount he's currently paying. The lease runs concurrent with the management agreement approved earlier. Questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zarate.
Yes.
Trustee Lawler.
Yes.
Trustee Basta.
Yes.
Trustee Watts.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenzano.
Yes.
Trustee Jaskowitz.
Yes.
See, Mr. Bone, you leave and the agenda just... Mr. Olson, you need to step it up.
It was back to back, and you're missing the changes too.
It's a small thing, just to...
Tab.
Just half.
Okay.
Did we do that?
Now we're down to number 8. And this is up for public discussion. As mentioned, this will not be approved this evening, one way or the other, and it'll be discussed again one more meeting. Probably, in fact, I'm going to say it's not going to be discussed the next meeting, whether or not it's canceled or not, because I will not be at the next meeting. It'll be pushed over to, the discussion will be pushed over to the 3rd meeting, which is the 1st meeting in February. I don't know what the date is off the top of my head. Anyway, I'd like to open this up to anybody who'd like to talk about the proposal amending the municipal code to going back to a full-time administrator and part-time mayor. Would anyone like to come up and discuss that?
Good evening. My name is Joe Jamanco. I want to talk about a couple things that have to do with the part-time mayor and address a couple other issues as well. The reality is there are a lot of people in town who are interested in this. There are very few people who want to take the time in the evening to come to the meetings, as we see from all the empty seats. I don't think that means that people aren't interested, and I would strongly encourage every person who has a vote on the board to actually go out and talk to people about it. And if you could do any kind of polling, I think that would be a great idea. As it was explained at the last meeting, I frankly don't understand some of the rationale to what's being proposed. Not saying I'm against it, but I don't understand some of the rationale. One of the things that was said very clearly was that the change to being a part-time mayor is something that would open it up to more people. It would allow, for instance, a school teacher to be able to run for mayor and not have to quit their job. I recognize that, but Chapter 2, Section 2105 of the Village Code currently allows for a person who's elected mayor to choose to be part-time. They can choose to be part-time, they can choose to be full-time. So the change in the code simply eliminates the choice and makes it so that there's going to be only a part-time mayor. That's fine if that's what's best for the village and that's what everybody agrees on, but that rationale alone fails because we already have a choice. So anybody who wants to run for mayor currently could run for mayor, and if you want to keep your full-time job, you could. The other piece to the change with respect to liquor and tobacco commissioner, as I understand it, that compensation, I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, that piece for liquor and tobacco commissioner currently generates about $30,000 of pay for those 2 positions. What I understood was explained last week is that the new mayor, the new code is going to eliminate those salaries because the police department currently does most of the work. My question that I guess I don't understand is how long it's been going on, where the police department's been doing most of the work. if it doesn't require the mayor to do much work on it, whether or not there's going to be any salary foregone going forward, or whether or not there's going to be anything returned to the taxpayers if there wasn't actually any work that was required. That's a question that a lot of people have asked, not just myself. I'm not trying to pick on you, Mr. Mayor, but that I think is a valid question, the way that it was articulated. Because the way that it was articulated was that the police department does the work, so whoever is next being mayor doesn't need to be paid for it. That's the way I understood it, and that's what a lot of people have understood. The other piece that I don't understand is what the real motivation is right now. There's lots and lots of rumors out there, and I'm not going to perpetuate what the rumors are as far as who's going to be the next mayor or what have you, but why this change is coming at this point, other than your retirement, Mr. Mayor, and obviously you've been in a position longer than anybody else, and you know it better than anybody else, and I give you credit for that. But that doesn't mean that somebody else can't come in and do the job. So I just hope that whatever the decision is, it's publicly discussed, it's discussed with taxpayers, and the best decision for the village is really made. One other issue, within what's been proposed, there's also points about the village clerk, which I think the major changes are an adjustment to the salary calculation. But there's text that's in there that continues to articulate that the village clerk can have a second job in addition to the elected position. Now, over a year ago, I had done a FOIA request to the village, and I asked for copies of any minutes or any documentation where this board ever actually voted to approve the second job. And that's what the code requires, and that's what the proposed code requires. But it's never been done. And arguably, and it's in opposition to state law. This is the same topic that the Edgar County Watchdogs commented on last year. I think it's still an issue, and for some reason it's not being addressed. So I would just strongly encourage the board to do more than simply put it on the agenda, because people have jobs, they're not going to come out, but it doesn't mean they're not concerned. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I think publicly talking about this for 3 successive meetings over a period of several weeks is a fairly significant opportunity for people to speak. And I realize some people cannot make it to meetings, but over a month-and-a-half period, I would think they might be able to find some time. And of course, the Facebook warriors are out there pounding all over this. I do want to comment about a couple of them. First of all, yes, the current ordinance does allow for choice. That's never been tested. We put it in place. It was actually my idea, whenever the full-time mayor position was approved, to put that choice in there. But I was told at the time by council that if it were tested, it might not be able to uphold it because it was too loose in the definition. So this would eliminate that question about its legality of letting somebody make a choice. And quite frankly, one of my concerns about making that choice, Sarah, is that somebody could run for mayor suggesting they're going to be part-time, get elected, and then take the full-time opportunity, along with retaining an administrator, which I think is wrong. And so that eliminates that possibility of misusing it. And I know some people say, well, you're going to suggest other people misuse it? Well, yeah, I am. There are people out there who would do that. And the only way to correct that would be to have to wait 4 years till another election. I took on the job when the vacancy came up. We advertised it, much like we did through this, as we were doing for this, over 3 successive meetings before it was passed on. Then I ran for the position and got elected to it. So it wasn't just handed to me. I went through the election process for the full-time spot. And we eliminated the position of full-time administrator. So at the time, as a part-time mayor, I think I was getting $30,000. The administrator with benefits making $150,000. So we eliminated $180,000 worth of village expense, and I took it over for, I think, $114,000 at the time. So it's a significant savings. I had had administrative experience prior to being here. I enjoyed it, and frankly, having been elected a number of times since, I think most people, or at least the majority, agree that I've done the job and done it reasonably well. The liquor license and tobacco thing's interesting, and Joe, I know your wife would like to see me return money to the taxpayers. I have worked for years to restructure the whole process of administering liquor and tobacco to minimize the need for somebody to run around and be liquor commissioner on a full-time or even part-time basis. I've had help with that with the state of Illinois on their control of tobacco, for example. There are very strict rules in place, and there's other agencies looking into it, so the need for the tobacco commissioner is diminished a bit. And we have everybody in compliance here in town. The police department over the years has taken on a very stringent, how often?
3 times for tobacco and also...
Well, we're just talking about tobacco. 3 times tobacco. We send out stings. We find somebody that shouldn't have cigarettes, typically they're 18, 19, 20 years old, and we send them to every license holder in town. And I think maybe once a year we have somebody who violates it, and that's typically because a new hire, the favorite excuse is we had a shift change, so people were changing, they were in a hurry, whatever. So the Tobacco Administration has really been minimized through this whole plan to reduce the obligation of one person as tobacco commissioner. Liquor, much the same way. Over the years, we have changed the liquor license from there are only 3 bars in Bolingbrook. There used to be several more. And frankly, the 3 bars that exist, when they change hands, they go away too. We have very carefully modified over the years all of our liquor licenses to require 65% food sales. 65, isn't it, Jim? 60. 60 in food sales. So that it requires a bar to have food available, which means it's a restaurant. The bar is just a secondary thing they have for people who like a cocktail over dinner. So that has changed the need. We had 10 or 20 bars like you see in Joliet. I'm not going to name other communities, but that does require a lot more problems, checks, issues come out of it. You don't have those with restaurants. That's why we've gotten away from it. Those 3, by the way, are tailgaters, Holiday Inn of all places, and Clementines. And frankly, the Holiday Inn probably would change. In fact, I'm going to approach them about changing their license back to a restaurant license, because the time they came in, they did not have a restaurant. Now they have one. So that's another change over the years. So as far as those positions, okay, maybe the last couple of weeks they didn't work real hard on it. But I have certainly worked hard over the years to change how they're administered in this town, to professional staff. Now, this suggests to go to part-time. It's my recommendation. It's not been approved. It's not going to be voted on tonight. Was to go back to a professional manager. Why? For a whole lot of reasons. One, we're about built out. We do not really have business park land for sale. It's all under contract or owned by somebody who's a professional in the business. And by the way, during this whole period, we've never had a full-time economic development person. Now, there might be those who argue we should have it, but you talk to most mayors in suburban Chicagoland, for that matter, across the country, Bolingbrook's pretty well known for a fabulous economic development activity. Anyway, so we're built out in industrial. There's really nothing left. We've maxed out. And the ones that haven't been built on are in plans to be built. We know what's going to go there. The biggest piece right now is 119 acres of the old Chicago property, which is now on the market. And we don't know where that's going to go, but it'll be an industrial-based property because it's surrounded by it on the south side of 55. So it's not really going to be that terribly difficult to go through that process, assuming they build something that's within our codes. So that's gone. We're down to about 2,000 acres of residential. It's all zoned. The school sites are picked. All that's done. It's just a matter of waiting for the right home builder to come along and buy it. We even have set-asides by all those properties. They will pay for the adjoining roads. So that's done. So we're down to basically the administration of the police, fire, and public works department, along with supportive services, which I think a professional manager might be in place to do that now. And lastly, quite honestly, I was sensing there were some people who wanted to run for mayor, not because of the passion or caring about this village. They wanted a job, and what appeared to be a well-paying job. Trust me, I work very hard for the money I earn, and I don't apologize to anybody for doing that. So those are the reasons. Now, are there others here who'd like to discuss that? Anybody at the board like to have any comments? So you're on the street.
At the last meeting, I did ask for a write-up with details explaining this process and that. I'm still waiting for that. I'm assuming that's still coming.
I thought you had it, to be honest with you.
I did
I
not.
know we basically took the village administrator job description of 2015, 20 years ago. It's
I
not
would
going
like
to change all
see,
that.
I would like to see in writing what the logistics are, you know, what are the new mayor's responsibilities? What are the responsibilities of the administrator? Who manages the administrator? Does the mayor or does the board of trustees? The board?
As I said last meeting, a village administrator works for the board. The city manager doesn't. That's why we've always had the administrative form of government. Bert?
Just the logistics part of it, I would need to understand.
Mr. Bowen has a draft in place that we're reviewing.
A draft, it'll be coming out, has all your questions answered, Bob, proposed job description.
Jim, they can't hear you at home.
So Mr. Bowen has worked on a draft answering all of the trustees' questions, outlining the procedures of going out and finding one, what the person would do, who they work for, et cetera, et cetera. It's taken a lot of time. Mr. Bowen's put a lot of work into it, making sure he covers all the geographical areas around us of municipalities that have managers. So you're going to get an entire packet to answer questions you haven't even thought of yet.
One of the questions I've gotten several times is the total cost going to be equivalent to what the mayor makes now? Is it going to be more expensive to have a part-time mayor and a full-time administrator?
It'll probably be more expensive.
Significantly, or?
We'll have that in the package, but a full-time administrator for a town of this size with salary will probably be the 150 range, maybe 160.
A little more.
Mayor
yeah.
be 30.
Yeah. So I think, Mayor, if I could, it would be not much more. It would be comparable.
Question about what the mayor's job description is. There is no such thing. There's no trustee job description. Oh, there's philosophical reasons you'll read about in the municipal code, but a duly elected trustee can pretty well do what they want. A duly elected mayor. When I became, I hate to mention names, well, what the heck. When I became mayor, I came into office and wondering okay, I'm here now, what do I do? You learn very quickly, first of all, you oversee the village, you meet with the priorities, find what their needs and concerns are, you schedule budget workshops, but it's up to the board to drive those things. And you meet with developers and so forth, you meet with them to bring staff in to answer their questions about the specific needs of zoning, whatever. The resident would complain about the police department, you bring in the director of public safety, you find out the concerns, see what you can do to alleviate them. If there's a problem with stormwater, flooding in their yard, street light out, the list goes on and on and on. And I tell people a lot of times, you think you've heard everything till the phone rings, and then you hear a new one. But I know mayors that never go in the office. Never. And again, there's no recourse for the taxpayer otherwise. And I don't want to see this village go to that. If somebody gets and decides not to do the job, then where does that leave us?
Well, that was one of the other things that was brought up to me, is can we put term limits in here? Since we're going to make all these changes, can we say it's a two-term position?
We could, but, you know, there's no question, and I've been asked about the term limit thing, and again, since I'm not running again, it'd be very easy to make sure, let's put term limits in. If somebody's doing the job, why not reelect them? You know, obviously, people vote for president. But when it comes to congressmen, most people don't have a clue. They don't even know who their congressman is. They don't know what a congressman does. They never see a congressman. It's even worse with the U.S. senator. You read about the global issues. They weigh in on immigration. They weigh in on abortion rights. They weigh in on gun control. And they weigh in on the news story of the day. But they never see them. They don't know what you do. And frankly, don't. It's the same with U.S. State reps and state senators. People don't know who their state rep or state senator are. And the way this state's been chopped up with gerrymandered districts, we have 6 representatives and 6 senators representing Bolingbrook. 6. That's crazy. And we're going to do a reapportionment coming up this next year with the new census. And we'll wait and see about the fair maps that everybody keeps talking about wanting to do. So you know one person represents your entire town as opposed to 3 or 4. So county board members, I bet you could line up 10 people over at Walmart right now and ask who their county board members, and they couldn't name one. If you don't have a problem with the jail, the health department, or the Will County Senior Center, or going to court, that's it. Because we have our own police, we don't have a sheriff up here. So, local mayors, I think most people know who the local mayor is, and they certainly know how to find them. They know who some of their trustees are. But that's all driven by the trustees on how accessible you make yourself, how much you go to functions, introduce yourself, and get to know each other. But most people know who the mayor is. I think. Now, maybe not a first termer, first year or two, but they learn pretty quick. So, I'm not sure, I think in local government, and God help us if partisan politics comes into play, but so far it hasn't made it, even though there's attempts. Local government, there's a process to term limits called elections. You see it every April election. There's several mayors in Chicagoland, or statewide, or across the country get knocked out of office. Or, so if that's what this board wishes to do, they're certainly able to do that, but I don't hear a big hue and cry for term limits locally. And again, if you got somebody that's doing a good job, and I think I have a little bit, I mean, I've been elected like 7 or 8, 9 times, I don't know. Why term limit them if they're doing the job? If they're not, knock them out. And they get knocked out. I've seen trustees come and go, not so much in recent years, frankly, but I certainly did back in the 70s and 80s, where we had a revolving door in some cases. But,
So
I don't know.
You say we have to announce this 3 times?
We don't have to do anything. I suggested we do it 3 times.
All right, and then will the vote take place after the third one, or the meeting
That's up to
following?
this board. I said we'd like to do it 3 times, because that's the way we put this in place, whatever it was, 15, 20 years old. I read this same ordinance and discussed it 3 successive meetings in a row. On the 3rd meeting, we voted for it because there was nobody talking about it. This time, it could be 3, it could be 4. We just have to do it 180 days before the election, which is 6 months. And I didn't want to wait till a month out to have to shove it down the throats in 30, 45 days. So that's why I started it in December. We could wait 4 meetings, 5 meetings. I'm in no particular rush. I just think it needs to be fully vetted. Now, again, the Facebook warriors are going to go out there and pound on it and throw all kinds of inaccurate information, but my phone number is on a web page, my direct line's on a web page, my cell phone's on a web page, and I'm here almost every day. So if people got questions, I'd suggest they pose it. But I have not been ripping off the taxpayers for my part-time liquor commissioner and tobacco pay. Frankly, I think it's insulting somebody would suggest that. And I think I'm here certainly to do the job on a minimum 50, 60-hour week. So if there's questions about that, I just want to make sure this village transitioned into something. So again, and I know the question made about the part-time thing, but again, I think Jim Bone can answer it. I was told by council when we put that option in there that if that were ever tested, it might not be upheld in court. And I didn't want to test that because it would throw the village in a chaotic situation. Does that make sense? Bert, excuse me, Mr. Odelson.
Bert's just fine, thank you. 2 things. Term limits can only be instituted by referendum of the people. The board does not have the power to do that, only by referendum. Number 2, one of the first questions I asked the mayor when thought about when Mr. Bowen was going to retire and looking for a new lawyer is, who is your economic development coordinator? Because in the other municipalities that I represent, we have an economic development coordinator to help keep the businesses we have and generate new businesses. And of course, he said, you're looking at them. So that saves you anywhere from $125,000 to $150,000 a year, which you didn't cover. And without him here, either your administrator will have to do it, or your part-time mayor will. But it's not a part-time job. Being the economic development coordinator in the town is a full-time job if you do it right. And it's been done right here, and the people have been fortunate. You've had one person do 3 jobs, to tell you the truth. So when you look at the dollar amount you're going to pay for an administrator, you have to take in consideration the job that has been done and the job that has to be done going forward. And maybe the town is built out, but someone's going to have to be here making sure that when someone moves out, someone moves in. And otherwise, You've seen some of the towns where they don't fill their streets and their shopping malls. So that's going to be critically important going forward in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, just comment about economic development, and this still wasn't part of the question, but in earlier years, 35, 40 years ago, we had an economic development person funded through donations from different governmental agencies and so forth. That person took another job and the position was never filled. As we developed, I watched the land. Bill Goldberg, for example, came in about 750 acres, which is now along along Remington Boulevard. That was unincorporated. That could have gone annexed into Romeoville. We persuaded Bill to bring it into Bolingbrook. That would have been a dramatic change if Remington Boulevard and that area was in Romeoville, what that would have done to us. We sought out to meet with all the area villages to get boundary agreements in place so we'd quit fighting over land with incentivizing developers to bring their land into Plainfield or Bolingbrook or Romeoville. So the boundary agreement shut that down. All the land started being bought by the major players, Northern Builders, McShane Corporation, people who know what they're doing, who have access to the markets, and who's looking for property, and what size, and what kind of building. So I said, why should we hire somebody in the public payroll to do what the private sector is doing quite well in terms of developing business parks and retail areas? Now, we inherited all these little corner strip malls. That was the philosophy back in the late 60s and 70s, all little strip malls. In fact, the village philosophy at the time was they didn't want any major retail. So we have all these little strip malls, which made sense perhaps at one time, but now they're a mess. And I think we need to look at some plan to incentivize perhaps even those being demolished in some cases and come up with some kind of a housing style that will blend in with the neighborhood and get them off the market, because they're not going to be retail. Mr. Clarkson tonight realized that with his 10-acre piece of raw dirt on next to River Hill subdivision, that it's not going to be retail. So we didn't do the economic development person because we have professionals fields doing it on their time, not our time. And that's how it's got done. And I think a professional manager could do a lot of that themselves because that land is still owned by the major people. Anyone else? We will.
Can I say one
Yeah,
thing?
sure.
Mr. Giamanco, thank you for coming out and voicing your concerns, but just to address one issue, all of us here are always available. Our cell phone numbers, anytime anyone has a concern, whether it be this or something else in our village, please give them our information, because we are here. I don't know that we're necessarily going to go door to door and say, you know, what is your opinion on part-time or full-time mayor, but we're definitely here for anyone to come and voice their opinions. So please share that information. Thank you.
You know, I'll just say, have heard some feedback as well. As you said, Mayor, we're out on the streets, and I think opinions have, like most things, ranged the spectrum. You'll get people in support of multiple approaches, including the one that's being proposed. But I think at the end of the day, it's great that we've had, you know, multiple board meetings to have it as a topic of discussion. As Mary just mentioned, the community knows, I think by now, that we are accessible, including the mayor's office, between now and a decision is made. But at the end of the day, I believe, and I'm confident, that as a board, we'll ensure that, number one, constituent services are continued to be met at a top level that this community has grown used to. And so we're looking at how the executive department will be structured, but at the end of the day, our goal as a board will be to ensure that constituent services are addressed and our internal departments and staff have the resources that they need. So we just ask that the community have faith in our ability to make sure that piece happens as we look at how that will look and how that is rolled out. we'll continue to have those discussions and ultimately hope to make the best decision for our community at this time.
Well, in case anybody's thinks that I have ulterior motives, when somebody even suggested, oh, he's probably going to get hired to be the part-time mayor or whatever, or full administrator. No way, folks. But if anybody thinks for a moment that I'm going to put this village at risk with any recommendation or discussion, you're absolutely wrong. I would not have done what I've done here for 40 years as mayor and trustee and put this town at risk in any way, shape, or form. But I want to ensure that this village continues to run in a professional manner, which I think it's been run. And that's why I'm making the recommendation for full-time administrator with going back to a part-time mayor. Well, enough said. We'll continue this at the next meeting, which again will be the first meeting in February. Questions from the audience? Any other questions about anything this evening? Trustee comments, reports. Trustee Zarate.
Thank you, Mayor. Winter Carnival. Don't miss our exciting after-hours celebration to kick off the 50th anniversary. Enjoy games, prizes, snacks, laser tag, meet Anna and Elsa, much more. All ages. It will be held Saturday, January 18th from 7 to 10 at the Fountaindale Public Library at 300 West Briarcliff Road. For more information, please call 630-759-2102. And I have one more. Bolingbrook, a place to grow. Looking to get your pilot's license before summer ends? Illinois Aviation Museum at Clout Airport and JW Aviation will give you all the information you need to accomplish that on Thursday, January 16th at 7 p.m. Call 630-771-1937 at the Illinois Aviation Museum. Pilot's license and info. Thank you. That's all I have.
One quick update. We had, for the police department, an open application process by law. They have to set a new list every 2 years, and today was the last day for applications to be submitted for the position of police officer. Police and Fire Commission will go through and interview all the candidates who submitted their paperwork by today. We'll go through the interview process.
February 14th.
14th. Today's the 14th.
February 14th.
February 14th, sorry. 30 more days. I got caught on the 14th. So 30 more days. Just checking to see if they're awake. You're awake. No. All right. You have one or two candidates, maybe? So one more month, a month from today, to turn in, and it has to be turned in by 5 p.m. Applications are available at the Finance Department, the center entrance of Village Hall, and all that documentation has to be submitted a month from today at 5 p.m. Thank you for that slight correction. I got all excited about the 14th. We've got an unusual event coming. It's been in Lockport the last 7 years. Valley View Educational Enrichment Foundation, with a number of volunteers from Valley View schools and some amazing vendors and conservationists, are presenting Wild Fest Sunday, January 26th at Bolingbrook High School in the field house. You can come in through the gymnasium entrance, but there are going to be animals that have been featured. One of the presenters is Jim Nessie's Cold-Blooded Creatures. I understand he's been around town at various events, but he's also been on the air with Steve Irwin, he was passed away recently, but Irwin family is currently in Australia trying to save the animals down there. But Jim Nessie brings Bubba the alligator and a bunch of other reptiles. Big Run Wolf Ranch and Incredible Bats, and then there's a number of displays. This goes from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday, January 26th. Adults are $8. You can pay with cash, credit card, or debit card. College students and high school students, college students should have ID, $5 to get in, and then free ages 0 to 3. So the proceeds benefit not only conservation efforts of these organizations, but the Valley View Foundation. And then lastly, I know I'm going to be going to this, Bolingbrook Park District is, Dance Force is putting on Legendary, and that's a show that they've developed a new one each year, and this is January 31st at 5:30 p.m. and February 1st at 1 p.m. at Bolingbrook High School in the amazing auditorium. So you can get tickets there, but also contact the Park District to get tickets. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Operation Christmas will be having their annual garage sale on Friday, January the 17th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday, January 18th from 9 till 2, located at the Bolingbrook Performing Arts Center, 375 West Briarcliff. All proceeds from this event will be going towards Operation Christmas 2020. I believe this year they helped close to 500 families. Carol, is that correct?
It is correct.
So, very worthy cause, helping our local community, so please come out. Lots of great deals there. Ashbury's at Boughton Ridge is holding a winter wine tasting on Wednesday, January the 29th. First course starts at 6 p.m. It's a 5-course paired with chef's small plates. $40 per guest. Reservations required. Please call 630-783-6604. That's it for me. Thank you.
Good evening. I have a few announcements here, starting with the fact that the Village of Bolingbrook wants to announce that Town Center will be closed on Monday, January 20th in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. They also would like to express that there will not be any delays as it relates to garbage pickup due to the holiday, so meaning garbage will roll as it normally does. If you have a situation that needs immediate attention, but it's not necessarily an emergency, you can always contact the police non-emergency telephone line. That's 24 hours at 630-226-0660. And Director Tepper will be answering. Is that correct? Answering the call of duty. So wanted to congratulate Mr. Schaefer Suggs. He had to step out. But it's always great to hear him speak. He does such a great job. He's so passionate, and he has some great stories. He's had a treasured life. And so I wanted to congratulate him on doing an awesome job. And he really said some powerful words as it relates to Dr. Martin Luther King himself is probably and would be very proud of Bolingbrook itself, Bolingbrook, Illinois, and how we carry ourselves as neighbors, living together, as we call it, door-to-door diversity, where you walk out and on your particular block, you have people of all nationalities and ethnicities. And it is truly a beautiful thing, and I'm honored and pleased to be able to raise my children in a town of this nature. But Mr. Suggs was very modest about some of the things that he mentioned as it relates to his son receiving that top African-American male high school scholar athlete of the Year award. I just wanted to mention some of the highlights of Mr. young Devin Suggs there. National Society of High School Scholars, member of the National Student Leadership Conference, NLSC, the National Youth Leadership Forum. He received the Distinguished Scholar Award for Academic Excellence. He has a 3.8 GPA. He was selected to the All-American Team in 2019, Team Academic Excellence Award, Team MVP Offensive Player Award. Devin works with several local charities serving youth and is dedicated to being a positive role model. Devin is considered a top dual-threat quarterback, and he signed, as mentioned, to play football at Yale University. So just wanted to give some of the intricate details around what qualified Devin for this awesome award. It takes place, it says here, Friday, March 13th, 2020 at 5 p.m. He will be honored on that day for the Franklin D. Watkins Memorial Award. And then finally, if you're interested in purchasing your first home, there will be a first-time home buyer seminar taking place with industry experts, realtors, mortgage lenders, inspectors, all those that you need in that process to help you overcome any obstacles that you thought you may have. There may be some first-time home buyer funds available to you. So if not you, if you know someone else that's interested, please spread the word so we can have a great attendance. I look forward to being there to give the introduction and then hand it over to our experts in the business. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Watts. I want to give a quick thank you to Director Teppel. Held his monthly Coffee with the Chiefs at Westcom this past month. Very informative, and a big shout out to all of our dispatchers. I learned just a little bit about what they have to go through on a day-to-day basis. So thank you, and the Coffee with the Chiefs schedule is posted on the Village website. Quick comment about the discussion on part-time mayor. I've been contemplating this as I've been listening to all these great announcements. I think it's quite admirable that Mayor Clare, in his visionary leadership, is still sitting here today thinking about the future of Bolingbrook. So I hope that we can all appreciate the fact that we have a mayor who could easily sail into the sunset and enjoy time with family, and instead is still putting time and effort into what this vision is going to look like in the future. So besides all of that discussion and Facebook talk back and forth, I really hope that people understand that this is, one, we have to make these changes now. We cannot make them during the term. They have to be made prior to the term. And two, I think it's quite admirable. So thank you, Mayor Clare, for that. And secondly, we are out on the streets, and I do want to echo, please reach out. We're at community events, we're at sporting events, we're at fundraisers, and our information is quite public. So if there are issues, comments, concerns, suggestions to us and the board, and as previous trustees have said, the mayor's office is open. Just a few announcements. State of the Village is this Thursday at the Bolingbrook Golf Club, January 16th. It's going to be about 11:30, and program starts at noon. You can still get tickets, but they are going very quickly, and of course the keynote speaker being Mayor Roger C. Clare. And you want to get your tickets through the Bolingbrook Area Chamber of Commerce. You can call them at 630-226-8420, but don't delay because you only have about a day left to get your tickets. Bolingbrook's Got Talent coming up on March 7th. Tickets are now on sale. It's an event benefiting Midwest Christian Montessori Academy, but the entire community is invited to submit talent applications. I will tell you the talent application deadline does close very soon, so if you're interested, please look up Bolingbrook's Got Talent. You can find either a patch article or up on Facebook. No problem finding information about it. Again, that's March 7th, and that's going to be hosted at the Bolingbrook Community Center. And finally, the Amita Health St. Patty's Half Marathon and 5K happening right here behind Bolingbrook Town Center. That's going to be on Sunday, March 15th. Presented, of course, by Amita Health, Adventist Medical Center, Bolingbrook, and you can sign up to run the race online through allcommunityevents.com. That's all tonight. Thank you.
I just have one quick announcement. We're looking for chefs, creative chefs. The Bolingbrook Rotary Club has had an annual, going on 5 years now, and it's going to be March 14th, Saturday, at New Life Lutheran Church. The winners over the last 3 years had ties to the police and fire department for whatever reason. I don't know if that's what they cook a lot over there, mac and cheese for their personnel. But the winners have had everything from lobster mac and cheese to jalapeno to all kinds of different creative recipes. So if you think you make a dynamic mac and cheese, get a hold of the Bolingbrook Rotary Club. We're limited it to 10 chefs because if we have too many, it's just too hard, too much food, and it's hard for people to do their tasting. The other thing is if you're a business in town or you just want to advertise, we put out a nice, and each placemat has sponsors on it, and that's how the majority of the money we raise for the Rotary is done. And so if you're a business in town and would like to be a part of that, we would love to have you advertise on that placemat. Again, March 14th. You can either reach out to me or reach out to the Bolingbrook Rotary Club, and we can get you involved. Thank you.
We have no further business. There is no executive session. I would like to acknowledge Township Trustee Alicia Penford's with us tonight. Good to see you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Basta, second trustee Lawler. Question or comment? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We stand adjourned.
I got your email today about the thing.
You know-
I talked to Tony Peloso, and he